Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming over. This is Richard Sachs. I'm your host on Lost Arts Radio, and got some interesting things to talk about. You may have noticed if you've looked around that there's some pretty intense things happening in the world right now, not just in America where we're sitting, but in many countries all around. And the ones that aren't totally lost in tyranny already are threatening to join the ones that are. And it's still optional. We have a lot of choices that we don't think about. So I thought we'd like to make this relevant, this discussion relevant, and I wanted somebody who really gets the whole picture and the magnitude of what's happening to join us, and was hoping that could be Lloyd Marcus, who was on the live show recently. And he said, yeah, which is great. And I want to start out by just looking at what's happening right now and going from kind of a superficial issue to start with, which is I'm sure one that nobody has any controversy over. It's racism and what that actually means and why it might not be good to waste your time on that. You know, what the other options are. And then let's go into what ideal, not just the horrible things that are happening, although we need to be aware of them, but what could we do if we didn't want to just continue that? You know, what are the real options for the world? So welcome, Lloyd, and I'm glad you're here, and it's going to be fun. Let's see where this goes.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is so nuts, Richard, that all this wacko-ness that is going on. And the thing that bothers me so much is all of the pandering to Black Lives Matter. That just bothers me. And something else too, I have to tell you, I have been watching so many conservative talking heads and religious leaders saying that we really do need to address all of this racism in our country, and we need to be very compassionate to the protesters and all that. And I just feel like, stop it.
Yeah.
Look, America is the greatest land of opportunity on this planet for anybody who chooses to pursue their dreams. End of subject. There's no such thing as systemic racism, and there's no such thing as white privilege. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, you're saying it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and you know, if you kind of zoom out a little bit, even if you take a tiny part of the universe, which is just one galaxy, the one that we're in, this planet is a pretty small part of that galaxy, and it shouldn't be a problem to just clean up one small planet, you would think. But you know, you mentioned Black Lives Matter, and I certainly agree, except I can't imagine, why would you want to call your life a white life or a black life or a yellow life or a red life or a brown? What? It's your life. Because the color costume you're in, why does that matter?
It does not matter. And most people know that, and most people realize that. This is the thing, this is another thing that drives me nuts. Back in the 1950s, I think I mentioned that before, my father faced horrible racism when he became a Baltimore City firefighter. You know, and so many people back then, they had to deal with real racism. But like when it comes to America today, people don't even notice race. But there has been one political party that has made everything about race. Look, my wife and I, we're an interracial couple. We've been married for over 40 years. When we first got married, we were attacked by white people. We were attacked by black people, and I mean physically attacked. But like nowadays, nobody cares. You know, nobody cares about the interracial. So many families are mixed. Nobody cares about race, but there's this one political party that persists on making everything about race for political gain. But
I think it's all based on a fraud, because you and your wife aren't really interracial. You're both in the human race.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
I don't see
I
the
never thought of it
issue.
like that, but like, yeah.
Yeah, you're both the same race, and everybody on the planet is.
Although
But
she might be, and I don't know, she might be from another planet or something.
well, I was just gonna.
That's
You
all.
were reading my mind because I was just gonna say, wait a minute. Why do we want to be racist only in favor of humans? I mean, if somebody else shows up that's from somewhere else, why would you hold that against them? That would just be interesting. As long as they're relatively friendly, I think it would be fine. The whole
I agree.
the division thing is a self-destructive, suicidal idea that nobody with any intelligence would go along with that.
Right. Like I said, and most people don't. Mary and I, we lived in Florida for 17 years, and when we moved to this small, tiny town in West Virginia to be nearer to our sickly and elderly parents. There are 500 people in this town, and I'm probably one of five people, five black complected people in town. Everybody here is great. They're fine. I don't even think about race, and I don't pick up that they think about race. But this thing about race has really been pushed a long time. I remember when I was younger, my family is all Democrats, and they always accuse me of having too many white friends.
Right.
But that was because I looked at people not through this invisible wall of race. I mean, when I look at Richard, I see Richard. Now, like, I'm not saying that I don't see that you're a white guy, but I see you, and you can be a good guy or you could be a jerk, but it has nothing to do with skin color. And this is the way that I relate to other people. And I think more and more people are relating the same way. But like I said, Democrats have made this whole thing about race, and people who have not felt the racial thing in their entire life, they are facing a wall of race separating us, and that's an evil, horrible thing to do. It's just evil.
Actually, even if it was the whole political party that you're talking about that's doing that, it wouldn't be as bad as the current situation, because it's not just a political party. It's almost our entire criminal media is being used as this gigantic weapon to promote racism and division and self-destruction and all kinds of things like that, and get people fighting with each other at any excuse possible. That's most of the media, and it's tearing the country apart.
I have a question for you, sir.
Sure.
Why? Why are they doing this? Like, everything that you said is 100% true, but why? Why does and I call them fake news media, why do they want to divide Americans, and why do they want to harm so many American lives? What is their motives?
One thing I really enjoy and respect in talking with you is that you have a tendency to immediately zoom in on the main issue. Not to get, well, it's really important,
Mm-hmm.
And before I answer you, which I really want to, just so in case people haven't seen us before talking, do you want to say anything about who you are so that people have a context of your comments on all this? Because they know I'm a radio host and health scientist and stuff like that. And you're a writer, and you've been involved in music. And what do you want to say to introduce yourself to the people who don't know you?
I am Lloyd Marcus, renowned as the Unhyphenated American. I'm a black conservative writer and Christian, singer, songwriter, activist. I think that's basically it in a nutshell. And I hate to say all of those labels like I'm a black, but I think you have to, because things are so polarized now that you have to let people know who you are.
I think so, and people have been trained to think on superficial levels too. So it's a starting point, and then they can see who you really are after that. You know,
Right. Yeah.
So in answering that question, my opinion, which is totally subject to error, obviously I'm learning like all of us are, but in many decades of observation and analysis, I think that the corporate media that we've talked about is following orders. This is not something they thought up on their own. Mm-hmm. And they're being used as one of the weapons in the arsenal of a much more hidden, much smaller group that is directing the whole thing.
Now, are you talking about the New World Order?
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of names, but it's a small group of individuals and families that basically at this point are running almost the whole world.
That's
and
basically true.
At the very top levels, which their own minions don't know, their goal, in my observation, is complete extermination of life on this planet. I think that's very clear. And it's hard
Richard,
to
Richard, I have to say this. My wife has said this, and I have accused her of being a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to do that.
No, but she has said the exact same thing.
Well, logically, you know, if they plan to be the elite remnant, which a lot of people believe, and they just want population reduction, and they want to still have the world as their playground and that scenario, they would not be destroying the life support system of the planet if that was their goal, because they're going to have to live there. And the kind of changes that they're making to the biosphere are the irrevocable kind, you know, like corrupting the genetic makeup of plants and animals and everything like that, and spraying toxic metals even over the oceans and the whole world from the sky in a program that you're not supposed to talk about. I mean, that's not the kind
You've been talking to my wife, haven't you? Because she has said all of this to me.
I didn't want to admit it, but I thought, you know, we might as well come out on a public show.
Right. No, but you're one. Yes. She has mentioned and she had said that we can no longer buy like normal corn, like
that's right. Even non-GMO corn. See, most of the corn crop in the U.S. and a lot of other places has been totally destroyed. You can see it in the store, but if you eat it, it's a really bad idea, because the genetic makeup of that corn has been totally changed. A lot of environmental groups who unfortunately went off crazy with communists and other ideas have got it right on the farming part. Chemicals, toxic chemicals and herbicides and things were never necessary for farming. There was a guy named Justus von Liebig, an earlier chemist in Germany, who made this breakthrough discovery that was really horrible. And that was that with three basic chemicals, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, you could grow crops and you didn't have to know anything about the soil or be a good farmer anymore. You just pour on these three chemicals and you could get a faster crop and sell more of it, and it would weigh more. You'd feed the world and save everybody from starvation. The only problem is that when you disrupt the soil, which is a vast universe by itself, full of life, and you disrupt that with chemicals, the food that grows out of it is so weak and unsuitable for growing. You need all kinds of poison to kill everything that naturally comes to eat it. And then the final food that you've got, you can't wash it off. The poison saturates it. That's before you genetically alter it. And then it gets much worse. So I think your wife is absolutely right. And that's not a good situation.
My wife has told me all of this, and I'm going, yeah, sure. But now I'm hearing from you that she's 100% correct. Her sister raises animals here in West Virginia too, and they were telling me the normal time it takes for a chicken to grow to maturity. I can't remember. It's like a couple of months or something, but they are pumping chickens with so many chemicals that they are coming to maturity in a couple of weeks. And that can't be good.
Yeah, no, it's not good at all. And when you put that into the food chain, it starts to destroy the whole thing, and you get these out of control degenerative diseases that we see everywhere. The reason that we're paying $4 trillion a year in America for so-called healthcare that keeps everybody sick, and a lot of it's because of the disrupted food supply.
That brings something else to mind. Why are so many young kids morbidly obese? When we were coming up, we maybe had one or two fat kids in our gang of kids. But why are so many kids morbidly obese today?
A lot of it is the highly processed food full of chemicals. Because the body doesn't know what to do with that, and most of it's not nutrients, so it ends up getting stored as fat, and it makes the body hungry because it didn't get the nutrients, so it wants to eat more and more and more. And it's the same with the chemicals in the soft drinks and all that stuff. I mean, it's not hard to cure, and of course I'm not a medical doctor, and I can't say anything about this.
I realize that.
Just information to share. Go to your doctor. Please get all the drugs and surgery they tell you right away. I'm not. This is just natural stuff that I'm sharing. But those diseases, as reported by many brave doctors that were willing to risk their lives to say this, they go away when you correct all the mistakes in lifestyle.
And
there's almost nothing left.
I thoroughly believe that. I was diagnosed with diabetes about 7-8 years ago, and it really did force me to change my diet, and just by changing my food just helped a whole lot. I mean,
it can totally get rid of it. There's a doctor in southern Arizona named Gabriel Cousins, a medical doctor, really good one, and he's demonstrated complete removal of diabetes with nothing but certain elements of juice fasting and organic food, stuff like that. It works 100%.
And what you have to do is make sure that you do not become this obnoxious food police person. I saw one of my younger brother. He was just eating this huge bowl of total empty carbs with no nutrition in his entire meal. And you feel like you want to say something, but you know that you shouldn't. And a couple months later, he was diagnosed with diabetes. So I thought, no kidding. I mean,
it's a huge epidemic. But you brought up a really important point, and that's that the only way we don't get off track when we start learning about these really interesting natural remedies for things, including situations and international relations and all kinds of stuff, they all have natural cures. And the only way that you don't go crazy on the way to learning that stuff is just give up the idea of condemning anybody for anything. Don't hate anybody, and don't look down on anybody, because as soon as you do, you're set up to make the most ridiculous mistakes you can imagine, to teach you that you're not in a position, you're living in a glass house, so to speak, and you should not be throwing
everyone is right. Everyone is.
So, but once you realize that, then everybody who wants to can help each other learn things that used to be known a long time ago and need to be brought back.
What kind of things are you talking about? Are you talking about personal responsibility and things like that?
I'm talking about who we are. There's how can I say this? This is unusual depth of conversation for a show like this, but I think what I'm referring to, because it's really important, is who we are. We were saying before, racism is just doesn't exist really, because we're all human beings. And then you mentioned that your wife would probably say, well, what about somebody visiting from another planet? Are they going to be excluded because they just don't happen to be human? And what I'm saying is any kind of being from anywhere all comes from the same place, and they're not physical, they're wearing a physical costume. And that's a deep concept. And if you get to the point where you can explore and find out about that, you don't have anything against anybody. You just see that the reason people are doing these horrible things, like rioting, for example, and beating up people to fight fascism, and of course they're not fighting fascism at all, if they're really blowing it on that. And the reason the people work for the dishonest media, and they keep other people doing the same thing around them so they can avoid realizing the mistake they're making, and not have a conflict like that, so they just double down on it all the time. The reason those people are falling into those traps is that they're subject to error through their own minds, and all of us are. And the mind is like an interface between us and the almost infinite information that defines the physical plane. And it's a great tool, and it's got access to all information. But if it's not related to correctly, it can kind of throw tantrums like a little kid and bring up thoughts that people think are their own and make them want to do bad things to other people. And if they don't get that conscious relationship with the mind healed, then they're going to do stuff like what's going on right now.
Well, I definitely think that everything that's happening now, maybe not on the ground level of the protesters, but with all of the media going rah, rah, rah to the protesters, and all of the politicians going rah, rah, rah to the protesters, this is totally about transforming America into a socialist communist country.
Yeah, I think that's the stage of the plan that we're in right now, is make it socialist communist, which the people that have been brainwashed think, oh, that's great, we're going to get free money and utopia, and everything's going to be great. The bad people will be re-educated and will sit around all day being fed grapes or, whatever their vision is. Mm-hmm. Nobody has to work because there's free money. So the economic problem is solved finally after a few tens of thousands of years. Now we finally know the answer. Just give everybody free money. And they have this idea,
where did they get this mindset, though? They got this mindset because we surrendered the schools to liberals decades ago, and they taught the kids to hate America, to hate Christianity, and to hate traditional America. And so this is what we are dealing with today, a bunch of spoiled, pampered kids that haven't had any real problems in their lives. Like, I have all of these millennials in my family rallying around Black Lives Matter, and they haven't experienced an ounce of racism in their entire lives.
No, but they like the excitement of being in a cause, where everybody else is a cause. A cause. A really exciting cause. Like, sometimes when kids are in kindergarten or nursery school, they get together and they're fighting these vast wars for justice and truth in the American way and everything. And, they imagine this army that spreads out miles and miles back, and they're going to save the world. And I think it's a little bit more evolved vision of the same kind of imagination. It's just an exciting cause, and they have no clue what any of it really means. They've just been giving these buzz phrases like, white people are all devils, or whatever they're told to motivate them. And they don't want to think too much. They just want to get rid of this frustration by destroying everything. It's going to be great.
I was talking to my brother today. He's a conservative too, and he said that he heard that we can no longer say master bedroom.
No, that's obviously racist. I mean, you need. Did you ever watch the movie Christmas Story?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good with Ralphie. And Ralphie said the mother of all swear words one time when he was trying to help his father change a tire or something. And his mother was curing him by putting Lifebuoy soap in his mouth.
Soap in his mouth.
Right. So that's what, from now on, if you ever say that kind of bedroom, that's what's going to happen.
But why are so many major corporations pandering?
Because they think that they're going to get a lot of money out of it. Because see right now, all the small businesses and independent enterprises being destroyed. And
I know.
If they do that, they think they're going to have a monopoly, and nobody can get anything from anywhere except from about 4 companies. And if they're one of those, they think that's going to be fantastic.
And they are so obvious about it. Like a mom and pop store cannot open up because of COVID-19, but Walmart can open up, and Target, and all of these other major stores, are free to do whatever. But all of these small businesses barely hanging on. We have a local tavern in my tiny town. I think I've seen maybe 8 people in there max at one time. They had to shut down and separate and social distance. I mean, it's insane.
Well, and if they normally have 8
and
people in there,
that is killing them.
Well, they're going to be allowed to have 2 people instead of 8. And now they're getting ready what they call this second wave thing.
I know.
We talked about making movies. These guys are like, they're making their own movie, and the world is their set. And the second wave, they don't even need a virus. All they need is a change in calculation of the numbers. And they've got the second wave. No.
And also, it does not matter that all of the numbers have been totally wrong.
No.
That doesn't even matter. And the fact that they've been padding the numbers too, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, padding is an understatement, because what they've been doing, I've been looking for any sign that there is a test for COVID-19. And I'm pretty sure at this point, there isn't one. There hasn't been one from the beginning, because they would need a sample, a purified, isolated virus sample that is definitely COVID-19 in the engineered form from the laboratory. They would need one of those to compare to from the test. And they don't have it. And
so wait a minute. So wait a minute. So what you are telling me is that they have no way of testing whether or not someone has COVID-19?
No, they just figure the population is not sophisticated enough to understand that.
Oh, my goodness.
So what they
Another
test
lie.
Yeah, this is a pretty big one. And so what they test for instead is coronavirus, which is a huge family, and it's been around. Everybody's had it. Everybody's likely to test positive at some point. And, that's a virus that's around if you have a cold or anything.
Wow.
And so they test positive for coronavirus. Well, obviously, virtually everybody is all the time. So for the second wave, which has to be super terrifying, enough to wipe out any remaining struggling small businesses, they just have to revise the calculations, which they've done. And sometime around June 18th, as detailed on a show that I can't mention or will be off the air right away, people can see it on our website. About June 18th, if I'm right, the date could be a little bit off, the CDC issued a memo to all of the health departments of the states, especially the ones that were trying to reopen, Texas, Arizona, places like that. And they said, a slight change in calculation for cases, not deaths or anything, but cases. The deaths are already completely fraudulent because they're counting everybody dying from anything, because most all of them have coronavirus. So they say they died from it. But the cases, they need to explode. So what they did is they have one case, like an assumed case, because as we just said, there's no test. So they have one assumed case, like somebody sneezed. And then instead of saying that that's the case, they now say 16 to 36 people that were around them, it's presumed that they all have it. So this sets the stage for an explosion in case numbers, especially in the states that were rebelling and trying to open businesses. And it'll be such a severe second wave that doesn't exist, of course, but it'll be very severe to the point where I think they could justify in their minds shutting down
again
permanently.
I hope and pray that does not happen. And I am amazed that people on both sides of the political aisle have been duped desperately over this thing, and they are totally terrified.
And fear.
And they have a 98% recovery rate. So
and that's even from the fake, case rate.
Mm-hmm.
The real case rate would be a lot smaller. So almost everybody gets better. Almost everybody's asymptomatic. And the WHO originally said, this is one of the reasons this is like a world-ending event, is because you can get this disease from people who are fine and have no symptoms. And that was part of the reason that they shut everything down.
Right.
Which, of course, even if that had been true in a country like America where we have unalienable rights, you couldn't do that anyway.
Right.
Because it
supposedly, you would think,
if it was run according to the Bill of Rights and Constitution. But they did that, and then they said months later, sorry about the contagion from the asymptomatic carriers thing, that actually was false. But now, don't worry about that. We apologize. That takes care of that. So now we go to the next thing. And they did the same thing with the ability to get it from surfaces.
Right.
Like if one of those healthy people secretly had it and they touched a surface, and then you touched the surface in the next week, you're essentially dead. And they said, well,
right.
sorry about that, was, a lie too, but we're really sorry. And I'm sure everything will be fine.
And the amazing thing to me is that, like, all of the media that has been promoting stay home because if you go outside you're gonna die, these are the same people that told the rioters to go out and flood the streets and protest.
Well, because they're getting rid of fascism and racism, so it overrides.
So the ad overrides the virus.
Exactly. That's advanced medical knowledge to really understand.
Right. And I keep telling people, why are you falling for that scam? How come it was horrible for us to go to church or to go outside? And then they wanted to allow, and then they started encouraging everybody to run out and protest. And now, because we are getting nearer to the election, they are telling everyone, what you have to do is go back into the house and lock up and stay in the house now.
Exactly. And don't worry, because we're going to give you some more free money.
Right.
And because the population doesn't understand economics, and they've been trained in school that it's too hard to understand it. It's actually really easy to understand the basics. And one of them is that you have to have things produced in order to be able to buy and use those things, one of which is food. And if you don't produce it, you can have $1 trillion and you can't buy any of it because there isn't any.
No, all of that food doesn't come from production. It comes from the food gods.
Exactly, the food bank and the free money.
Yeah.
Food is born in cans, right?
Right.
Some of it, though, in bottles, if you really understand it.
So how do we fix Richard, how do we fix all this? How do we fix it? It's not sin. I know it's not, but how do we fix it?
Yeah, well, it seems to me that if you don't deal with the consciousness of the people,
now that I agree,
the most complex, amazing plan is not going to work.
I agree.
So there's one issue, and that's people have turned into zombies and they're not conscious anymore, and that has to be reversed. And if it's not going to be good.
Speaking of going to the people, I was one of the original people of the Tea Party movement back in 2008. I wrote the American Tea Party anthem, and we went around the country doing hundreds and hundreds of rallies. And most of the people at those rallies were white, and they were not. And they were not racist people. They were not against Barack Obama because of his skin color. They were against Obama taking our country down the road to socialism. So that's why they were opposed to him. But then, of course, fake news media branded the Tea Party a racist movement. But the Tea Party was not. But I went to the organizers, and most of them were Republicans, and I says, why don't we do a tour in black neighborhoods? Because, like, I'm not a rocket science. I'm a black conservative, because I heard the conservative message, and I saw how that conservatism was much more better for black folks than being on the Democrats' government welfare plantation. So I said, why not take a bunch of black conservatives and do a tour in black neighborhoods? And these tours cost thousands of dollars to run. And the Republican management said, why bother? Because no matter what we do, they will always vote for Democrats. And I says, no, but y'all have a moral obligation to take them to the truth. Right. And they had no interest whatsoever. And so now they have all these black people rioting in the streets, thinking that all of their problems are because of Republicans and conservatives and racist white America, and nobody has told them, no, you need to take some responsibility in this game and stop voting for people who have policies that basically destroy the black family, and do so many negative things to you. They should have listened to you. And, and it brings up the question too, since then, whatever happened to the Tea Party? What happened after that? Where did the Tea Party basically evolved. When the Tea Party movement started, basically it was a bunch of Americans saying, hey, something has gone terribly wrong. And so we had all of these rallies to really encourage one another and to discuss our grievances. So that was the mindset for a while. And then a lot of people thought, like, okay, now we have to start doing something. And so that's when you got all of these organizing organizations, political activist organizations who were birthed out of the Tea Party, and they're around today. But I have to say, wherever there are human beings, there are going to be some problems, and some of those really sincere Tea Party people said, "Hey, I can get rich. I can do, I can become a star, and I can be," and a lot of them, no, I won't say a lot of them, but some of them abandon the purpose and the values of the Tea Party movement. And I can, I know some great people who stand for the same things today that they stood for when the when the Tea Party movement first started. Does it even exist anymore? Yes, it does. No. Oh, the Tea Party, and that was another beautiful thing about the Tea Party. It was never one centralized organization with centralized power.
Okay.
These were all grassroots organizations around the country. So no, we don't have as many Tea Party organizations as we had back in the day, but we still have a lot of Tea Party groups out there.
Okay. Yeah, there's a real problem with organizations because not only do they tend to degenerate, some of the people within them get other ideas and they take them in directions against what the purpose was supposed to be. But if they're seen as a threat to the power structure, they tend to get infiltrated. And
Well,
I'm not sure how to totally prevent that.
Look, I have been the chairman of the conservative campaign committee for several years, and we have traveled around the country helping to elect conservatives in House and Senate races. And when we campaign for these people, they say, we're going to stand up for the United States Constitution, and we're going to go to Washington, D.C. and be a voice for the people. And when they get to Washington, D.C., they become a part of the swamp, and they're and they are raising taxes and doing all these things to take away the public's rights. You know what happened?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question.
Huh?
Yeah. Why are they subject to falling for that? What do you think the answer to that is?
They like those Washington, D.C. cocktail parties. I have been to Washington, and there is a definite vibe there that the Democrats run that town, and that they don't know us. They don't know you. They don't think like you. They don't think like me. They have a different way of thinking there, and the simple way is to say they think as elitists, and they look down on us.
Yeah. So, in other words, how do we want to control the animals? I mean,
perfect.
Something like that.
Yes. How do we control the animals? And look, I have to say this. This is why I have loved Donald Trump. I know he's been crude and he's been this and he's been that, but my goodness, he was a guy who went to Washington, D.C. and said, I'm going to do what I think is right for the American people. Now he may have performed like a bull in a China store, but he has been doing things for the best interests of the American people. Richard, we haven't had that in a long time. I got to tell you that.
I think it's not that he knows everything, it's what his motive is.
Exactly.
And I think that's why they want him gone and dead and everything. And I think I saw the same thing in John Kennedy, that he had a lot of flaws, really serious flaws, and he was even slipping towards socialism himself. But the reason I think that he had to be killed was similar to Trump, is that he actually wanted to do good for people.
Exactly.
He wasn't trying to destroy the country.
Remember his line, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Yeah, watch that speech live.
Oh, really? He would have been removed from the party if somebody saying that to a day.
Yeah.
Just would not fly.
Or they would twist it and say, and here's what you can do for your country, become
right. Yeah.
90% income tax or whatever the best thing is,
Did you say that you saw him give that speech live?
Yeah, not in person, but on black and white television when he was doing it. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was exciting. And of course, most of us didn't have the sophistication to know what mistakes he was making at that time, but it was really clear that his sincerity was his main quality. And I still think that was true. So that's why he was unacceptable.
And and I see a lot of people who dislike Trump, and I say, look, if we did not have Trump, we would be in big trouble. You have seen the way that they have behaved during this COVID thing. They just immediately stopped all of our constitutional rights immediately.
Well, it's made possible by our wonderful educational system that has taught people for generations now that the Constitution is outdated, that the job of the government is to decide what's best for you, no matter what it is. And in a subtle way, they've been teaching that the greatest, most unquestionable authorities that you must always obey is the medical system.
That's true.
So
Dr. Fauci, that's right.
Yeah, well, I think
Dr. Fauci is God.
Well, Fauci's probably vice president at this point, and Bill Gates is president. And Donald Trump is there for kind of an, appearance factor. But so far, he's been letting these other people rule the country. And,
now, okay, but look, I have to give him some cover there, because I've heard that same thing from several of my friends. But look at the position that Trump was in. Everything that Trump says and does is basically distorted. And so when Fauci came out and said, look, either we shut down the country or we're all gonna die. If Trump had gone against that, think of what the media would have done killing
You're right. And I'm not saying that Trump really could have done necessarily something else. But still, it's true that he let the medical system take over.
Right.
And their motive is total evil.
I agree.
So, at the top, they understand. They know what vaccines are. They know what drugs are. They know whether there's a serious viral problem, and they probably even know that even if there was a 90% death rate in a free country, which this supposedly was, or was supposed to be, it never lived up to it, but was supposed to be, everybody would die before giving up their rights. That really sets it apart, right? And so government can make a suggestion, and the president can say, I really think you should stay home even though it's going to destroy your business, because if you go outside, probably you're going to die from the virus. They can say that. But in America, as a constitutional republic, he can't say that you must stay in your house.
I agree. And that's another thing, too. Everybody kept saying exactly what you're saying. They can't do that. They can't do that because it's unconstitutional. But they did it. And by the time that you spend money, go to court to sue them, you're totally.
And then the corrupt judge throws it out anyway.
Yeah,
we have a situation happening where theoretically you can't do it, but it's like an analogy that I like to look at. If you're coming up to a four-way stop sign, right? Not a signal, but just four, what they used to call boulevard stops in the old days. Generally, in most states, the convention is that the car on the right gets to go first. And so if you're on the right and you say, well, it's the right of way, it's the law, I'm going to go first, and there's this truck going 80 miles an hour, not going to stop with the other stop sign, you're completely right. And you get flattened, and you're totally dead.
But you're in big trouble.
Everybody in your car is dead. And so there's another little detail, besides being technically right, that you might want to look at. Like, is it going to work? Or how can we make it work? Is there a way to slow down the truck so it doesn't run over you? Instead of just saying, well, it's my right, so I'm doing it. It's going to take some strategy at this point.
Yeah. And but I just want the American people to stand up, and I want them to start pushing back against all of this. Somebody's going to get hurt in the process. I remember this movie called Pale Rider and with Clint Eastwood, and he comes to this small mining town, and this rich guy, he wants to take all of the small miners' land.
Mm-hmm.
And the small miners, they come to Mr. Eastwood and they say, look, we want you to lead us in battle against this guy to fight for our land. And he said, I will do that. I will lead you. But tomorrow, when this battle starts, some of you are going to die because freedom ain't free. And we need people to realize that, like, freedom ain't free, and some of us are going to die. I love this guy in Michigan. He owned a business. I can't remember what it was, and the governor told him that she demanded that he not open his business, and he says, "I'm going to open my business. You know, I may go to jail. I may do. I may lose everything." But I'm going to open my business because it's my right. That's the kind of courage that we need.
Yeah, I think that character used to be more common near the beginning of the country, and it needs to come back. I mean, what was it that was behind winning the Revolutionary War? It was like, what, 3% of the population had that spirit?
Yeah.
And it was enough. It worked.
Mm-hmm. And they were totally outnumbered too, and and
now,
they still won.
It would have worked faster if it was 90% instead of 3%.
Yeah. So we just need more people standing up for what is right, and standing up does not mean that you're mean or evil.
Right.
The Bible talks about a righteous anger, like there are certain things that should make decent people angry. And there's nothing wrong with being angry.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't make you crazy, because it can skew your vision and make you jump into decisions that aren't very smart.
You should control your anger. And my brother gave me a bit of wisdom several years ago. He says, whenever something shocking happens, before you respond, stabilize your emotions.
Yeah.
And that has
what was that old thing?
For me.
Remember that old thing they used to say, count to 10 before you...
Yeah. It's basically the same thing, yeah.
I mean, I'd say more than 10. It needs to get yourself back into a clear state. So you're saying, okay, this is what happens, and this is what I need to do. The best generals in a war, they're not furious. They're really cool and centered, and they say, well, this is the situation, this is the only way we can do it, and they go ahead and arrange that. And I think,
I have to tell you, I think it also works well with emails too. Sometimes I'm sure that you have gotten these emails, and then I start to type in.
It's really hard to unsend those.
Stop, and I backspace, and nope, I'm not going to type that.
Yeah. Go relax for a little while and come back. Yeah, I've wished that I could unsend some emails in that particular situation.
Been there, done that.
But I think you are right in getting down to what's the reason, what's the solution. And I think we're in agreement that it's the mentality and the consciousness of the people that's allowing this to happen, not just the general society that is ready to become zombies and not think about anything, but even the perpetrators. Because we can talk directly to them too. They're victims as much as the victims are victims, because they're doing something that's going to be bad for their future. And they think they're going to be in the elite that are going to inherit the earth. And it's not going to work like that. And, that there are laws of nature, even if you never read about them, that apply to you. And that's that whatever you do to somebody or for them comes back to you multiplied.
And I believe that. I
You can't just
wholeheartedly
ignore it. I mean,
that.
they are ignoring it. Their bosses are saying, no, you're immune. Don't worry about it. You know?
Well, I know that my personal mission is to continue spreading the truth.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that a lot of times I feel like it's falling on deaf ears, I just think that you just need to keep spreading the truth. And all of a sudden, people will start believing you. I've gotten emails from people who said, I hated you. I thought that you were a stupid Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
But thank you for writing what you wrote, and thank you for being who you are. So
right. I don't think I don't think any of those efforts are lost. And even if somebody like you said, hates you at the moment, and they run off to do their Antifa work or something to fight against fascism and save the world, 10 years later, when they figure out why that wasn't a very good idea, they say, oh, Lloyd told me this way back in 2020, and it's actually true. And I think it's worth it.
I want to ask you something. Are you feeling hopeful for America? In the midst of all of this craziness, are you feeling hopeful for America?
I feel like it's at a turning point, you know, and I don't feel like I know for sure which way it's going to go. That's why I think all of us need to help the right decisions be made, you know, in the right direction. I think that I could say on the hopeful side that it's not too late to heal the whole situation. Whether it's guaranteed to be healed right now or whether we're going to have to learn our lessons the hard way, I don't know. I don't want to do it the hard way because I've learned a lot of things the hard way, and you don't want to do that, especially right now. And even the people who think they're on the winning team and are going to enslave everybody and promise them utopia and then, you know, re-educate them and kill the ones that can't be re-educated, the usual communist stuff. They are not making the best decision for themselves. And so if there's a way that we can do everything possible to reach people, not to hurt them or to fight them or to be against them, but to say, look, for your own sake, here's the mistakes you're making. And if we can get through to some of the, you know, a decent number of the general population and key people who are on the good and bad sides of the higher up controllers, I think everything could still be okay. But it's like, could be, not, I don't think there's a guarantee. In the long future, I think there's a guarantee because who we are is not these bodies, like you've said. We're the ones wearing the bodies. We know where we came from, and we can't end up anywhere but that. It's not possible. Nobody will be lost. But in the meantime, things could get really unpleasant. And my personal preference is that we don't go that way.
Right.
So if we can reach people, you know, who are falling for everything's racist or we need social justice by stealing all the people's property who have some, or, you know, everybody has to wear a mask or else they're a child killer. And, you know, there are people on TV from certain programs I've heard of that spend their free time driving around and attacking people who aren't wearing masks. And you know, this is
my goodness.
The celebrities, some of the celebrities do that.
And and look, I have to tell you, I have noticed how vicious people have gotten at people who don't wear masks. And they are like that because the media has scared them to death.
Yeah, exactly. That we're going to die because of some of these, you know, they had anti-vaxxers, these are anti-maskers. And then say, these crazy anti-maskers are going to ignore this wise, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-benevolent CDC that says, look, your only chance to live is wear your mask indefinitely.
Right.
And wear it when you go to sleep and in the bathroom and everything. I mean, there could be a germ about to get you at any time. And that's a very low level of consciousness.
And Richard, okay, call me stupid, but how long have human beings been around? Yeah, I mean, how long have human beings been
Well, I think it.
just?
I mean, I can't say absolutely for certain, but
But
I've
you
seen
would think.
strong indication that in our present form, we've been around for about 200,000 years on this planet.
Okay, so we have been here 200,000 years, and we've had viruses come and go, come and go, come and go, and now and all of a sudden, we have to stop. We have to all start wearing masks, and we
Right.
have to all stay 6 feet away from one another. Just to me, in logical thinking, that can't be true.
And
You
shut
know,
down your
how
income
come?
too. Stop making
Illogical.
money for food.
Yeah. I mean, just in logical thinking, that just doesn't make sense. And so many people uh, believe it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then,
well, the CDC forgot to mention, I'm sure they were about to get to it, but the bacteria that live in our bodies when we're healthy outnumber the human cells maybe 10 to 1. And that's to balance and help us live, not to kill us. And
right.
viruses are far more numerous than bacteria. So, there's a vast number of viruses that live in harmony in our body all the time. And they're teaching, the only good germ is a dead germ. And you have to sterilize put toxic lotion on your hands that goes right into your blood, by the way. And they say that's to keep you sterilized and safe. And we're never going to be safe by trying to kill the microorganisms.
Exactly. And I have heard that over and over. I watch numerous videos stating just that. And that when we wear these masks, we are really recirculating a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
And also, too, I heard major pediatric experts say do not put masks on kids. And yet I was at Costco and all these babies, toddlers, are wearing masks. And it just really infuriated me because this is harming kids. Fake news media has pumped these parents with so much fear that they are harming these kids.
Yeah. Well, we talked about your costume, your physical body needs good food, organic, fresh food, hopefully. And there's something that you need more than that for your physical body, which is called air with oxygen in it. There's about normal air has about 80% nitrogen and about 20% oxygen roughly. And if the oxygen falls below 19.5%, then OSHA in the US and probably similar organizations, other places, says that it's not even safe to work there. But inside a mask, it can fall down to, they've done tests on video recently, 18, 17, way below what's safe to breathe. And they're having people go around breathing that low level of oxygen. That affects your brain, your blood, your immune system.
Oh my goodness!
Your
why are
ability
they
to fight
doing
viruses.
this to us? Why are they doing this to us?
It fits right into the medical system. Because why do you take poisonous medicines to make you better?
Right.
Nobody sensible would ever do that when they know that there are all kinds of alternatives. In fact, not just the natural medicines, but if you learn about what details of lifestyle, what you eat and drink and your sunlight and your sleep and exercise and all that, how they affect you, it would almost the entire medical system would become unnecessary.
Right.
So it fits right in with that. If you wear the mask, there's going to be more sick people and probably more dead people. And that's going to boost the COVID numbers because they're all COVID deaths. And that's going to, further the program.
And I believe that fake news media is driving this scenario because they believe that this is going to harm the election of Donald Trump.
Right.
In November. So the American people be damned, all of the kids be damned, small businesses be damned. We just want to get Trump.
Well, it's not like those aren't also objectives. Because if they can get rid of small businesses, everything can be controlled by a few giant corporations, which is not against their plan. It's right in with it. And if everybody is dependent on welfare in the form of universal basic income, then that can be conditional. And if you have the wrong thoughts or actions, that's fine. You have total freedom to do that. You just don't get your universal basic income.
Right.
So they see it as a great way of control.
Mm-hmm.
And they also may be able to get rid of cash. Because there could be a germ on the cash.
Yeah, that's on the horizon too. And but they are obsessed with controlling the masses.
Right. You can't destroy them unless you first control them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of a step-by-step systematic point. And most of the people working for it think that it's going to stop when they're in control and they're in, the ruling class, and they're making a big mistake because it's not. It's going to eliminate them too.
Something else that baffles me is that how do these people get elected? What happened?
I thought the same thing, and the question is, did they get elected? Because as long as you've got voting machines, and it's basically a black box voting system, which means you don't follow the steps between the vote and the count and the announcement. We don't know if any of these people are elected.
Because I continue to hear, all of these governors are going to pay a big price in November for keeping their states locked down. I would love to see that happen, but I don't think it's going to happen because fake news media has people so deceived that these governors could be re-elected in a landslide.
As long as it's a black box system and you have machines which are hackable, not by a private hacker so much, but by the people who own them, just pushing buttons and arranging the numbers, they could elect a dead person or a rock with no problem, just by doing that electronically. So, and that's
you're not giving me much hope, guy.
Well, no, I'm saying what I think Trump should pay attention to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Yeah,
this is not a real election if you have voting machines potentially controlled by somebody else.
Right, and they also, and the Democrats are also pushing for mail-in voting. If he goes for that, he's totally insane. If Trump goes for that, he just.
Yeah, I don't think...
If the Republicans go for that, they're just gone nuts.
Well, or they're part of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Trump is indicating he's for that at all at this point.
Right, no, he hasn't.
The last couple of major elections, they've had truckloads of supposed legitimate ballots show up after the polls closed.
Right, I know.
They still accepted them, and they said, oh, sorry, it changed the whole election. And there's no control on it, at least no legitimate control. So I'm just saying that I want, with all of the things that Trump has not yet been good on, he's so much better than the alternative at this point.
Absolutely.
That it's really critical that he don't lose. And one of the things that he needs, this is not a criticism, it's just a warning that he needs to wake up to this. If you have the current setup with the voting machines, that's not an election.
Right. That's got to be fixed. It has to be fixed.
And there's only like 115 days or something today. So I just
have you heard anyone in the GOP talking about this?
Nobody.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's not good.
I think a lot of them are not necessarily, people who are really smart, IQ-wise, can miss the obvious. It doesn't always mean they're bad.
No, right, yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Even the bad people are just making mistakes. They think they're going to head by being bad. And that's a big mistake, and they're going to find out in a difficult manner. But I'm saying even for the people playing the role of the bad guys, this is not smart on your part. You need to start, helping yourself by helping the world, because it's the only way you can really benefit in the long run.
Right.
And I want information to get to Trump and to get, I don't know how many there are in Congress or in state legislatures that are not like completely hypnotized, but any that are still somewhat conscious, they need to get this information. Anybody who's
Absolutely.
listening to us.
Yeah. We cannot just allow Democrats to take the election, because they will. And I have to tell you, if Joe Biden wins, he won't be president. He will be the puppet out front.
Yeah, even presidents who have been elected who didn't have dementia, have ended up being controlled by unseen parties through the vice president or through somebody like that. Cheney was basically in charge during 9/11, and there are a lot of cases where the vice president was more in charge than the president. And in fact, one of the things that Kennedy was really unhappy about was he wasn't very high on the totem pole of the real power structure. And a lot of the things that he wanted to expose and have done, he was just told, sorry, sir, you don't need to know about that or be involved in it, and hang up the phone.
Plausible deniability.
In what sense? What do you mean?
That if the president does not know about it, he cannot be held accountable for it.
Well, they just didn't want him to expose anything that the public's not supposed to know.
Not supposed to know.
In the case that I'm thinking of, Kennedy was looking into some of the, I guess you could call them deep state corporate higher levels that had clearance way above the president. And they said, no, you can't do that. And he wanted to expose certain things that were happening. And they said, that's not in your jurisdiction, sir. Thank you. With all respect. And they hung up. And he was reported on a plane going to Europe at one point. And he was asked by a friend if he was going to expose certain areas in, what the government was doing. And he said, I really want to, but it's out of my hands. And he started crying. And this is a serious, I would like to see Trump break through that. Yeah. Because it's not a partisan thing. That what liberal really means is about liberty. And you can't have liberty. You can't have that without freedom in the economy and all these things. But even with that, that doesn't mean freedom to destroy the world. So you have companies that are doing projects that, like the Monsanto and now Bayer and these companies that are turning out things that are basically leading to the destruction of life. That's not legitimate freedom. The idea is live however you want as long as you don't, you're not supposed to kill other people proactively or take away their rights or, self-defense excluded. But beyond that, just don't go out and hurt people and, don't send things all over the planet that are going to destroy the environment and the biosphere. That this is not partisan. It's like the Democrats are all excited about global warming and climate change, and they're using that as an excuse to be puppets to promote shutting down freedom and normal society and ruining everything. But the real environmental problems are extremely urgent. And I've been excommunicated by some on the conservative side who say that, no, the environment's just all nonsense. It's not. It's what is keeping you alive physically.
Right.
And climate change, man-made climate change is real, but it's called geoengineering. It's a government project. It's not the fact that you're breathing out or using too much energy. And carbon is not a bad thing for the earth at all.
Well, as long as we're talking about this too, is there something that is hurting? Is there something in the food that is hurting male hormones?
All kinds of stuff. I mean, they've got A lot of the
I've heard
pesticides, even aside from the GMOs, which are a whole nother step into destructive food, used as a weapon, even before that, they were using pesticides, even before glyphosate, which is horrible on hormone balances. Atrazine was before glyphosate, and atrazine is absolute death to hormones. And it in animal experiments in amphibians and things, it tends to destabilize the gender identity and make males start acting like females, and they can't recognize females anymore. They want to go after males. I mean, yeah, this is well proven. There's no question. And there's no restriction on, you can just keep buying and putting this stuff on the food, and then people eat it, and some of it is toxic in parts per billion.
Wow.
You can't wash it off.
Because I heard that the male testosterone count today is nowhere near as high as it was normally in the past.
Yeah, that's true. And that's kind of a little bit different issue, because just the lack of general nutrition can be connected to that. And when you process the food so much that it's just so dead that it'll so-called stay fresh for a year on the shelf.
That should tell you something right here.
The main nutrient in food is something that hasn't been recognized by science at all that I know of, and it's called life force. And if you kill the food, some super processed white bread or something like that, and then you put artificial vitamins in it, it's not the same as if that food was still alive.
Right. Right.
So, no, testosterone goes down. All the essential hormones for both sexes go down when there's no nutrition, and a lot of what's eaten is toxic. And it blocks, and the drugs that everybody is put on, the medical drugs, a lot of those are deadly dangerous. And legally, you're not supposed to be prescribed any drugs without informed consent. And what that means, not just consent, say, okay, I'll take the drug. Informed consent means the doctor is supposed to tell you everything it may do to you that's negative. And after you understand that, you're supposed to say, yeah, sign me up, sounds great. If you don't get that explained to you, that's an illegal drug sale.
Gotcha.
So, and the fluoride in the water is another huge thing.
I've heard that one too.
If Black Lives Matter cared about the black people in the cities who are drinking fluoride, that's a good project for them to do. I don't think, the same people would fund it if that was what they were doing.
Right, I agree. And by the way, they care nothing about Black lives. Every single weekend in Chicago, 30 to 40 blacks, Chicago, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., 30 to 40 blacks are murdering one another, and they are coming out of fatherless households, and they're school dropouts. And every time a white person mentions that and seeks to deal with that problem, they are called a racist. If a black person, talks about that problem, I'm called an Uncle Tom.
Well, now, you used to be an Uncle Tom. Now you're a white supremacist.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to be white anymore to be a white supremacist.
Yeah. How does that work? So much of other stuff makes no sense at all, and yet it's mainstream. It's mainstream.
It is. They're just playing with us. It's like they see it as a form of emancipation. Only white people used to be able to be white supremacists, but now black people can be white supremacists. So
I didn't know that.
There's a lot more equality,
Yeah, so I'm a white supremacist.
That's right.
Well, where's my white privilege? Well, I demand my white privilege.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I think there's so much good work for Black Lives Matter to do. It's not,
absolutely.
They're busy getting mad at people who say, well, everybody's life actually matters. And people with dark skin don't have black lives. They have lives. That's a thing like your hyphenated thing, right?
Yeah.
Like a black life compared to just a life.
Yeah, well, to show how wacko things have gotten, some sportscaster was fired for simply saying all lives matter.
I know.
Now, I mean, how can anyone debate that or stupidly argue that, and yet this guy got fired for saying it, that all lives matter?
Did you see a movie called Idiocracy by any chance?
I've heard about it. I've heard several people talk about it, but no, I have not seen
Well,
it
I
yet.
got really interested because it was banned in a lot of theaters, probably because it was an actual, documentary of consciousness of humanity at that point. But
Who produced it?
I don't remember. Doug
Okay.
probably could tell you afterwards if you want.
Okay.
But if you look up Idiocracy, one thing that happens when you watch that movie, any of you guys that have watched it, is you realize, if you're still not totally hypnotized into a zombie, that we're living in Idiocracy 2 right now. And, rather than figuring out an intellectual plan of how we're going to turn things around, the residents of Idiocracy 2 probably can't turn things around very well, because they think they're it's like they've been hypnotized into some life form that's barely conscious. They got to break the hypnosis, and then they can figure everything out, because it'll just come to them.
Speaking of hypnosis, like I said, I had a conversation today with my conservative brother, and we were talking about how come our entire family and practically every other black person that we know refuse to hear anything negative about the Democrat Party. For example, the black women are only 14% of the childbirthing population, and yet 36% of all babies aborted are black babies. 72% of Planned Parenthood abortion centers are located in black neighborhoods. Margaret Sanger, who founded Planned Parenthood, she said she organized it to solve the Negro problem, because they were inferior people and breeding like rabbits. And yet, I tell my family this, and they love Planned Parenthood, and they love the Democrats for supporting Planned Parenthood. And now Democrats want the right to abort babies after they are born. And everybody in my family practically they call themselves a born-again Christian. So how in the world can they support people who want to kill babies after they're born healthy?
Well, this is about the hypnosis, isn't it?
Hypnosis, yes.
Anybody that could still think would never do that.
And that's
if
what
you've
we
ever
said.
seen an unborn baby, which, by the way, is not this thing called a fetus, it's an unborn baby that is moving around, and it's quite conscious. It's in touch with the mother and the father, and it's got a life that it's living. It's not ready to breathe air. But you look at it, it's really obvious what it is. It's not your fingernail. And, if you are conscious of that, it doesn't matter what party you're in. I mean, your brain is not supposed to belong to your party. You're supposed to look at things and see what's true, and you would never do that. So I think it's the hypnosis in it. People have said, well, why are you killing these unborn babies, ripping them out of the womb? And sometimes they have to break their necks. It's pretty serious murder.
Oh, no.
Right?
Like I saw a video on partial birth abortion where that they shoved a pair of scissors into the baby's brain. My God!
Yeah, the skull is soft because it has to be to get born.
They take the whole baby out except for the baby's head.
Yeah.
And then they ram those scissors up there, and that's why it's a partial birth, because everything figured out except for the head.
And so now they figured out, well, if people will go along with that, and they'll argue that that's a really good freedom, and that's women's health freedom, which is completely insane. It has nothing to do with that.
I agree, yeah.
That baby is not the woman, it's another person. And once people accept that, then they say, well, like the Virginia governor, we'll just keep them comfortable after they're born, and we'll have a talk with the mother. And if she happens to feel like keeping the baby, then we won't kill it. It's going to be great. And we'll keep it comfortable. He didn't mention that while they were keeping the baby comfortable, and they say it's not resuscitated until the mother decides to keep it, which is just nonsense language.
Yeah.
And he didn't mention that they would sell all the organs while the baby was alive.
I know. Yeah.
That's not an afterbirth fetus.
That's right.
That's a person.
Now, but something that I also believe is that most people just don't know this, because fake news media protects these people. Because like really, I think if the masses understood what Governor Northam said, then they would be outraged, but they haven't heard it.
About half of them would faint on the spot, I think. I mean, you're hearing a total psychopath explain how he kills babies. I mean, that's pretty severe.
Yeah. And he'll get re-elected in a landslide because nobody knows.
Well, and again, how much of the votes are real?
You're right.
I don't have any idea.
Yeah.
And they've set it up so you can't tell. But I think part of the hypnosis is absolute trust and belief in authority that we've been trained since we were born.
Yes, we have.
The government is just there to serve you. I mean, all these people work day and night selflessly to just make things better for you. And school has taught kids that this stupid Constitution, it's totally out of date anyway.
Right.
And besides, the Constitution is written to restrain the federal government. The states can still be insane, as is being demonstrated now. Mm-hmm. We've got states that are being run by pretty nasty people.
I know really, really bad for people that care nothing about their constituents. And
no, I mean, they care about them in the way that you might care about your chicken sandwich or something. It's not exactly compassion. So I think I'm not saying any of this stuff to be negative. I just think we need a clear picture of what the problems are.
Right.
And then the whole point, it's not even worth doing that unless you're going to look for solutions. And we need to reach people. And the media does that by having billions and billions of dollars for television and newspapers, and we need a way to do it.
But, yes, we need those billionaires, but in the meantime, we need you. We need me. We need us to keep doing what we do. I'm
not saying to wait for a billionaire.
No.
I'm just saying let's be creative.
You're not saying that. Yeah. But I'm saying that we need people like me and you to keep doing what we're doing. And yes, we keep pursuing those billionaire, but we just keep fighting. I heard from a friend of mine. He's a conservative, and he basically says, "I'm done. We have lost the country. I'm not going to fight any longer. I'm going fishing."
Yeah, and I think that's an attempt to become unconscious, because when you're conscious, it's too uncomfortable. And that's the basic thing that drives anybody to drugs. And what I'm saying is that the basic definition of a drug in the bigger sense is anything that makes you unaware of what is uncomfortable. So in that sense, he was using going fishing as a drug.
You're right.
Not that he was trying to do something bad, but the purpose of it was to be unaware. And the thing is, you can do that, but the results are never good.
Right.
If there's something that's threatening you, a situation in the world or a relationship that you are supposed to get harmonized or something like that, and you want to run away, that's the time when you run toward it and say, let's fix this right now.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. Like running away from it or hiding in a bottle or hiding
Sure.
in a drug, it doesn't work, because when you come down from that high, that problem is still there.
That's right. And it doesn't matter if the drug is even a natural drug. I
Right,
mean,
right.
in a way, you could eat, 20 pounds of steak and pass out, and that's being used as a drug. So
Yeah.
it's like, do you want to? We've got this habit that we've learned about running away from things that are uncomfortable. And if they have to be solved, then when we feel uncomfortable, you need to train yourself to run toward it.
Right.
Because
Well,
even if it's the last day, that we could do anything, it feels better. It's more self-empowering and leads to more awareness to do your best. And even if you have a 1% chance of success, or I don't care if you have a 0% chance of success, it feels better to do everything you can.
One of the things that I have always hated about so much of this modern civil rights movement is that these people are selling the message that for a black person to be successful, a white person has to do something. A white person has to liberate them. A white person has
Do it for them or something.
and that just takes the power from them.
Well, it's racism, isn't it? It's real racism.
Yeah,
Because why should you assume that somebody, because of their skin color, is less competent?
and the biggest tree of low expectations. Absolutely. They just are persistent for lowering standards for blacks.
Yeah.
And that's
going to make you think that there's nothing you can accomplish on your own anyway, so might as well take drugs and be a gang member.
And yes, and then what you have to do is ask yourself, how come the Democrat Party and how come the NAACP and how come the Congressional Black Caucus, how come they hate Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas? How come they hate a renowned surgeon, Dr. Ben Carson? And I can name a whole list of solid, extraordinarily successful blacks. Why do these civil rights leaders in the civil rights movement despise these blacks? They despise these blacks because they simply did the right things to get where they are. They got an education, they stayed out of jail, and they made and so what they really show is that the American dream works. And this is why the civil rights movement hates these people, because they want blacks believing this nation sucks and I can't make it because the white man is stopping me here and the white man is stopping me there. And white people are minding their own business, trying to earn a living. But when you listen to Black Lives Matter, white America is burning the midnight oil, trying to figure out a way to murder and suppress blacks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very strange hypnotic spell that's been laid on all these people. And every single one of them has something great inside them that is being kept in the prison of those beliefs.
Amen. Ooh, brother, you said a lot there.
Well, that's why you asked about feeling hopeful. I think that's the base of the hope, is who people really are. They're not inferior. Nobody's inferior. They're
absolutely not.
They're brilliant and unlimited.
And that, and that's another thing too. When I was a very young man, I became a born-again Christian because, I had a life of drugs and rock and roll, and I became a Christian, and my life changed. And so I wanted to spread the good news of Jesus to all of these young men, and so I went to detention centers, and they were filled with young black men, just like you said they were strong and they were talented and they were smart, and they was like basically in jail because they believed America was against them and white man was going to stop them. So like it did not matter for them to
Who
even
cares?
attempt. Yeah. And that was such a horrible thing to do to those bright young men, who could have possibly cured cancer. I don't know,
Sure.
but they.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Or been some kind of inspirational great leader, that would turn it all around.
Right.
So did you reach some of those guys?
Yes, yes, we did, but like a lot of it was like so full of negativity and resentment. And hate, and it was basically unfounded.
Right.
It was because that's another myth that white America hates Black America and wants to keep them down. Yes, there has been racism in this country, but when I was in high school, I was very artistic. I was very artistic, and I pursued scholarships. A white senator came to my house. He saw my artwork and he gave me a scholarship.
Nice.
The mayor and governor of Baltimore were white men. They gave me scholarships. The men I worked for.
You remember that? That's experience is right with you right now,
huh? They were strong and decent white men, and they gave me opportunity.
Right.
No,
I think it's fantastic. I mean, I wouldn't turn down any kind of great, input from people like that, no matter what color their skin was. That's so irrelevant. There are some really rich Black people too, and what if
I know there are. Yeah,
one of them could have come up and helped you just as easily.
Mm-hmm.
So making everything into a race issue is really stupid.
And yes, thank you. You're right. It's really stupid and it's evil.
Yeah. And there's a purpose to it. It's trying to prevent people from waking up. They wake up and they find out, wow, we're all the same inside the costumes.
Yeah.
That's going to be something really good to look forward to. And it could happen anytime. There's just this is why they're so careful and there's so much censorship going on right now. Because if this idea got out to people and say, wait a minute, no, we're not talking to your skin. We're not talking to your body. We're talking to you. We're not even talking to a man or a woman. We're talking to the spirit inside you, which is identical no matter what your skin looks like.
That's true.
And that's this huge potential conduit of unlimited healing power for everything.
I have to tell you, like, I'm going to share something publicly with you.
Good. I'm sure nobody's listening except us, right?
Many years ago, I was a young alcoholic, and I went to this AA meeting, and there was this elderly white lady, and she shared her story. And here I am, a young Black guy, and I'm hearing her story and things that she felt, and I was stunned. I says, my God, this old lady, I know exactly what she's talking about because I have felt those same things.
Yes, and you don't even have to be the same gender.
No.
There's an actual person inside everybody. It's not just all these labels.
But I was stunned. I was stunned that I could totally relate to what this woman said she felt.
Yeah. I know exactly what that's like. And
that's our humanity that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the secret they're trying to keep us from finding out. And what I would say, even to the censors, even to the people, the people that want to be thinking of us as enemies and all that kind of thing. And I'm talking to them too. There's the same thing inside you.
Mm.
And if you wake that up, all this anger that you feel against the other people, it's always been against yourself. And that's why you're so anxious to take it out on everybody else. That's always where it comes from. And so you don't have to keep going with that. It's not useful for anything. And this, track of trying to punish everybody else to somehow stop being upset with yourself doesn't work in the long run. So might as well do it. Try something different. What about being nice to everybody? That's like the deep concept is just to be nice. That would revolutionize the world.
I agree.
It doesn't mean be stupid or don't defend yourself or any of that stuff. It means have goodwill toward absolutely everybody, including the ones that are trying to hurt you because they don't understand.
Well,
it's strong.
Speaking again of the Tea Party movement, everybody said the Tea Party movement was racist, but those people at those rallies, they were not mad. They were just pushing back against socialism in the only way that they knew how, and they wanted the best for every American.
Right.
Whether you were black, white, male, female, Hispanic, Asian, and so on. They wanted the best for every American, but yet the fake news media just called them a bunch of racists, a bunch of redneck racists, and they were not. They were like salt of the earth Americans.
And a lot of this criticism that's coming from the corrupt media, they're actually reading it off a teleprompter. You're not supposed to know that. It's supposed to look really spontaneous, and if they get really well paid, it's because they have the right tone of voice, the right facial expression to seem really authoritative but compassionate. All that. And you look at 50 different TV stations and you get like the same phrase.
The exact same.
Each one of these people.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And something. And as I said, their slanders are totally intentional because CNN wanted to portray the Tea Party movement as racist, and so they sent a filming team on one of our tours, and the tour was like 35 rallies over several states.
Yeah,
I opened every single rally singing my American Tea Party anthem, and we had several black speakers, and the people. They loved us when CNN showed their documentary. Not one of us black people were in the documentary, and we were a major part of those rallies.
Yeah, but they wanted to show how racist it was, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. See, if you work for CNN or any place like that, you don't have to keep doing stuff like that. In fact, Project Veritas has been talking to some people from the inside and exposing that this kind of thing goes on all the time. And that could be turned around. It could change. And even if you don't become a whistleblower or anything, even if you're a high-up manager, what would happen if you were brave enough to start putting good and honesty into your job instead of what you've been told to do?
But
all
I
these
think
corporations
that's a long shot.
Change. It is a pretty long shot, but it doesn't have a zero chance. Inside the worst managers and perpetrators, and even many steps above that, above the bankers and the Satanists who don't care about money, they're just doing it strictly for evil, which is at the top level. Inside every one of those persons is the same being that's inside us, and it's not impossible to wake up. I think we have that capability by what's called resonance. If we do it inside ourselves, it becomes really powerful. And who knows what could happen.
So are you saying that when we do it inside ourselves, it tends to generate out from us?
Yeah, I'm saying that we see this little time. You've heard of the electromagnetic spectrum of different frequencies of light and
Right.
things like that. That's like a tiny speck of what there is. So if we had a little bit more expansive vision, we would see fields of light and color and sound around all of us. And everybody's affecting everybody else all the time. The quantum physicists talk about this a little bit, but it's a real, like if you just change the lens on the camera a little bit, you'd see all these people, everybody's connected to literally everybody else at any distance. And usually we're not focused enough to really take advantage of that connection, but we could. And that's a way to reach people that you could never talk to because they would rather kill you than talk to you, which is most of the top level rulers are like that. But we can reach them in a way that is guaranteed to get right to them if we learn how to control that. So I'm not pessimistic. It's just, are we going to find that out in time this time?
Right.
I hope so. Personally, I'd like to see that. I think it would be fun.
I agree. Well, Mary and I are heading out to the West Coast on July the 12th.
That was just what I was going to ask you about. Let's wrap up. Let's wrap up by saying what your activities are going to be coming up, how people can get in touch with you, where you're going to be, stuff like that.
Like I said, we are leaving July the 12th to head to the West Coast, and we're going to do a tour of several states, basically to help the Republicans win back the House, to help states reopen, and to reelect Donald Trump.
So maybe you're going to be trying to expose this second wave theory that they can shut down everything more or less permanently.
Absolutely, yeah. That would, yes, because that is definitely their goal. So we have not mapped out the whole agenda yet. I will be going with the conservative campaign committee, and these guys are brilliant strategists, and they decide what states we go on the tour. So I'll be out there with them. It's supposed to be a short tour, but I've been on tours with them before, so I could possibly be on their road for up until the election.
Wow.
Things like this tend to evolve. But I would love your audience to go to my website and watch my Trump Train 2020 music video. Yeah,
we should even put the link to that below here. Since we're recording this, we have a chance to do that.
Okay. And my website is lloydmarcus.com. I will email you the direct link to the music video.
Okay, great. So if you're watching this at, later on any of the major platforms, look for that link and you can listen to the song right away.
Yeah, and watch the music video. That was fun. We went to California and did the green screen thing and all that.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And maybe from the road, if you feel like doing a show at some point, if that would be useful, then
that could be fun. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'd like to make that happen. Oh, and like actually, I have to let you know that I am still alive because everybody is saying, "Lloyd, are you nuts?" With all of this wackoness.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you look alive to me. I mean, as far as I can.
No, I'm talking about that. They're afraid that we will be attacked by Black Lives Matter, Antifa, or somebody. Yeah. But I don't know. You just got to do what you got to do.
Right, and you're not seeing them as an enemy, And it's hard. It's harder to fight with somebody who's not seeing you that way. I mean, speaking of energy, there's a different relationship that happens. You're inviting them to become normal again. It's not impossible.
And basically, the only thing that I'll be doing is telling them the truth. I won't be screaming at
Right.
anyone. I'll just be sharing truth.
Yeah. 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 I think it's great. So LloydMarcus.com. And then how about any of the video platforms like YouTube or Facebook or anything like that? Are you on those too?
Yes, I am, but I don't know my Facebook
You can
page
give
and
us
all that.
links before we put this
Yeah,
up, and we'll put them. We'll
yeah.
post them.
As a matter of fact, my wife will send you all that. She
Okay.
handles Facebook and all that
Yeah,
for
and
me.
when you talk to those brilliant strategy people that you're talking about,
Yeah,
tell them to think about ways to get information to Trump about the voting machine situation.
absolutely, absolutely.
He could fix that. I think he could certainly, start a project. I think even now with the 100 and some days left,
Hmm.
I think it would be reasonable to say basically no voting machines, paper ballots, and visible the whole time because, and I won't make a long thing out of this because we're wrapping
No,
up,
no, but you're right.
but a long time ago, decades and decades ago, there was a book that everybody should read called Vote Scam USA by the Collier brothers. And it was about the way that before they were able to corrupt the elections with voting machines, they did it with paper ballots. And a lot of the well-known organizations helped them do it. And they took them in private trucks under these basement-like parking garage type situations where it was closed with guards with machine guns, and they altered all the ballots, and then they brought them out and announced them. So they have to be in sight of the public the whole time.
Absolutely.
Then actually we could have an election. As long as they require in-person voting, and you have to have an ID and prove that you are who you say you are and all that.
It's racist to ask Black people to show a photo ID to vote, despite the fact that you got to have one to get on the airplane and cash a check. But it's racist to ask them to have one to vote.
That's true. I mean, the psychology is pretty effective on this stuff. So we have a simple job: just bring things back to normal.
Right.
Shouldn't be a problem, right? So, okay. Well, I hope you'll be back soon, and hang on, and we'll say goodbye in the break here.
Thank you, my brother.
Okay, you guys, there goes Lloyd Marcus. Hope you enjoyed everything that he had to share with us. I encourage you to go to his site, tell us a lot more about him, and listen to his songs. We have a couple of links under the video that you could find. And I just think he's a great example of a really genuine, deep person that is having a good effect on the whole country and the rest of the world by being, I think they used to call it sane, when there were people like that weren't going completely crazy and subject to all this nonsense about racism and stuff. He's just a really great person and a demonstration that the kind of person you are and the character you've got and how you treat everybody else and how you see the world has nothing to do with where previous generations, what country they came from, or whether they're Native American or immigrated American or African or European or Australian or European or anything else like that. It has to do with who's inside, not the costume, which we have great respect for this miraculous costume. It's incredible, and you can do all kinds of good things with it during your lifetime, but it's not you. You're the one inside, and you don't have color. Like, sorry, you don't. Every costume has color, even the so-called white ones, but the person inside doesn't. And once that gets realized, the whole project to turn planet Earth into hell on Earth, which is what our rulers are involved in right now, would be over. Because compared to reality and what's really true, they don't have any power. And like we talked about during the main part of the show with Lloyd, we're not hating the rulers or any of the people going crazy or the rioters or anything. We're inviting them to say, look what you're doing, and it's not possible on this level to do anything without effects on yourself. So if you want to be in better shape in the future and have a better experience of the remainder of your life, there's a way that works. It's your motive. If you do things to help everybody else, you start feeling better right away. And just a suggestion, if you're working on the side of the perpetrators to mislead and hurt and lie to people, you'd probably have a better time if you try something the opposite. That's what this is all about. It's like two groups of people need to become conscious again. One is the ones who have decided they should be the criminals and work toward destruction of life. And the other ones are the people that are falling for that, the rest of us. And it's not too late for us to wake up. And, like when you realize you're in a really bad dream and you think, no, I don't want to see going off the cliff or whatever is about to happen, and you just force yourself awake. In this dream that we call real life, we don't have to go over the cliff. And it has nothing to do with your past. You can drop that anytime you want. Even if you're the high-level perpetrators, doing bad things to people, you can drop that, turn around on a dime if you want to. It's available right now. You're not going to hear that very much, but it's true. And it's going to be what determines the rest of your future. So think about that. And if you like the show and you want to keep us on the air, which would be really nice for us and all the people listening, there are ways to help us with that since we don't have commercials. You can donate at the donate button on lostartsradio.com or lostartsresearchinstitute.org or on subscribestar.com/lostartsradio, and our main site, which you can go to and get on our mailing list for future communications if we can't be found on the regular platforms and we need to get things to you. That's at lostartsradio.com. And again, there's a donate button there. There's an address there if you want to send the Research Institute a donation, and the same thing on lostartsresearchinstitute.org. Remember that we've got the Saturday shows going on now. Lloyd was already on one of those. Those are about current events, and that's Saturday afternoon at 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern, and right half an hour after that is the private club meeting where we talk about completely uncensored stuff relating to health information that's suppressed, and you might find that really useful, and consciousness tools to make it easier to transform your life and have a better quality of life experience in all areas of your life. And that's what we talk about, and we share information that is practical and usable, and you're personally invited if you want to check it out. And access to that is at planetaryhealingclub.com, planetaryhealingclub.com. And I'm there live every week, and we can interact and deal with questions and comments of all kinds, and hopefully give you a lot of powerful information that you can use for benefit in your own life. I think that's about it. Probably think of something else as soon as we leave here. But anyway, Lloyd Marcus, follow him. He's about to go on his tour that he talked about at the end. LloydMarcus.com. He'll be talking about where he's going on the trip, and that's subject to change based on the restrictions with the pandemic situation. But he'll keep you up to date there. And he's got a lot of interesting writings as the Unhyphenated American. He's on YouTube under Lloyd Marcus, and deserves a lot of support, in my opinion. So thanks for being with us for this time. We really appreciate it. Take good care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.